No two F1 cars are the same in 2026. From unusual side pods to rotating wings, the cars we saw in testing are already nothing like the ones the teams showed off at the car launches. 2026 has seen the biggest ever change in the rules of Formula 1, and the impact that has had on the cars is dramatic. From the front to the rear, inside and outside, we're going to look through all of the changes in the car and the key areas of development to watch out for. For now, let's take a look at the shape of the car. Looking from the outside and comparing the new cars to those raced in 2025, you might think something's wrong with your picture, but it's not. The 2026 cars are smaller than the previous generation of F1 cars. They are narrower and they're also shorter. In fact, they're not only smaller, but they're also lighter, with a significant reduction in the minimum weight of the cars, something which should make the cars more agile in the corners. The new rules see an overall reduction in the width of the cars of 100mm down to 1.9 meters overall. Along with that, the cars are shorter as well, with a maximum wheelbase of 3.4 meters, meaning that the teams will have to package things a lot more tightly, which could make cooling a little bit tricky. That will see the cars have a range of different openings in the bodywork, with lots of gills and outlets on the engine covers as the teams balance aerodynamic demands with the demands of the power units. Making the car as light as possible will also be a big task for the engineering teams, who will need to make the car weigh no more than 724 kilograms in race trim, but that's not including the tyres, the driver or the fuel. Making things harder is the fact that the teams still have to meet strict regulations regarding the weight distribution of the car, so just making the car light enough to meet the minimum weight limit isn't good enough. They have to make them even lighter than that to meet the weight distribution rules, but if a team gets that right, it will return some real performance advantages. It isn't just the cars which are smaller and lighter, the wheels and tyres are as well, with the tread width 25mm narrower at the front of the car and 30mm narrower at the rear, while the diameter of the tyres has also been reduced by 15mm at the front of the car and 10mm at the rear. The difference though is visual. You can see that these wheels and tyres are smaller. There will be 5 compounds of dry weather tyres available during the season, ranging from C1, which is the hardest tyre, to C5, which is the softest. There is a wider and more consistent gap between each compound of tyre to encourage different race strategies, and at each race Pirelli will pick 3 of these compounds to make up the soft, medium and hard tyre available to each team. There will of course be intermediate and wet tyres available as well, as the weather demands them, and these retain the tread patterns from 2025, of course in narrower form. These smaller tyres will still sit on 18-inch wheel rims, but the wheel rims themselves are of course narrower and lighter in line with the tyres. Every car will still use identical wheel rims, but the standard wheel covers used in 2025 have been replaced with some more technical freedom for the teams in 2026, with each team able to design and build their own wheel covers, and there are already some really different designs out there on display. A major part of the 2026 rules is a completely new aerodynamic concept, and this can be seen right away looking at the car. The wings are completely new. At the front, the 4-element wings have been replaced with narrower triple-element designs, but on the outer edges of those narrower wings, the previously tightly regulated end plates have been replaced by a new concept of end plate where there's a lot more freedom for teams to experiment and develop the designs. Already, every single team on the grid has come up with a completely different solution in this area of the car, and it's sure to be a big area of technical development as the season progresses.
You look around the front wing, you can see these vertical elements on the footplate of the end plate. That's this bit here. These are really quite interesting. Nobody else has got 2 of these. Nobody else is playing that, and you can see the shape, that outwashing shape. That's going to be a bit of a trend this year in Formula One.
At the rear of the car, the twin-element wings of the previous generation of car have gained an element, and like the front wings are now triple-element designs, though the lower beam wings used in 2025 have now been banned. The new front and rear wings are not only interesting in terms of pure aerodynamic design terms, they're also the centre of a huge amount of attention as they're not static components. The 2026 rules introduce an active aerodynamic system which allow the wings to move up and down. They can switch between a low drag configuration in straight mode and a high downforce setup in corner mode. There's already been huge experimentation and variety in this area of the car, with teams adjusting the wings in different ways, front and rear, with wings dropping down, popping up, and even going entirely upside down. It not only looks spectacular, but it works, making these cars extremely efficient out on track, and efficiency means speed. In 2026, Formula One is introducing an all-new power unit to propel the new cars around the world's greatest tracks at speeds of well over 200 miles an hour. At the heart of these 1,000 brake horsepower machines is a 1.6-litre V6 turbocharged combustion engine featuring direct injection. These incredibly efficient engines are built to a similar but different rulebook to the 2025 power units, but they've also been specifically developed to run on advanced second-generation biofuels. These new fuels are being developed specifically for Formula One, and they have to be based on sustainable sources like domestic, industrial or agricultural waste rather than fossil fuels. This new fuel technology will be directly relevant to the future of the automotive industry, so the fuels being developed in F1 could be running in your car in the not too distant future. However, the V6 combustion engine will only produce about half of the total power output of the new cars. The other half comes from an extremely potent hybrid system which features a 350 kilowatt electric motor at its core. Managing the balance between the combustion engine and the hybrid system is likely to create new and exciting kinds of racing on track, as the drivers attack and defend against one another. To do this, they will have two new tools at their disposal. Boost mode, which gives a driver a bit more power to get closer to another car or to defend against one that's getting too close to it, and as well as that, the drivers also have overtake mode, which gives the driver a bit of extra electrical energy on top of what they already have. But it's only available to a driver who is within 1 second of the car ahead as they start the lap. Of course, with both modes, which can be used together, the driver needs to be careful not to drain the battery too quickly, or he might get caught out and passed himself. Notably, the MGU-H exhaust recovery system has been removed from the power unit, meaning that these new cars are louder, and not only that, the different manufacturers' power units actually sound very different from each other, giving a new element to those watching at the track or even at home. A new floor concept has been introduced for 2026, with the full ground effect tunnel floors of the previous generation of car replaced by largely flat floors. But these new floors have some fascinating areas of technical freedom. At the front of the floor, there are new aerodynamic elements which the teams can develop to tune the airflow behind the front wheels. And ahead of the rear wheels, the floors are full of holes, slots and serrations as the teams manage air around the rear wheels and around the rear of the car. Already some hugely innovative designs in this area have been seen, and there will be many more to come.
You can see an almost double-decked section to the rear floor just ahead of that rear wheel, and a few teams are doing that, including Cadillac, but Alpine's is probably the most extreme interpretation.
The cars also sit slightly higher off the ground, with the ride heights being increased, which could give a bit more setup freedom for each team and possibly make the cars a bit more adaptable to individual driving styles. The cars will though feature extended diffusers with a lot of interesting areas of technical freedom, and these are already being exploited by the teams, but overall the cars will have a bit less downforce, which could make the cars a bit harder to drive, rewarding the most talent behind the wheel. While the new cars will be lighter, more agile, and have that completely new aerodynamic concept, they're also safer than ever before, with a brand new two-stage front impact structure inside the nose, which will help protect the drivers in a secondary impact. Meanwhile, the roll hoop behind the driver's head, designed to protect them if the car flips over, has also been substantially strengthened. In wet conditions, the cars will also be more visible, with new rain lights front and rear, helping the drivers see one another in thick spray or fog. This new era of Formula One is likely to be very different to anything which has ever come before, with extremely fast cars which are clearly awe-inspiring to watch, but at the same time challenging to drive. The teams have enough freedom to innovate and explore, meaning that the engineering ability of each team will continue to be a core part of the sport, along with driver skill, which will be pushed to the maximum. With the new aerodynamic regulations, it should be easier for cars to follow one another through corners, and the new power units should open up a whole world of new overtaking opportunities. This is Formula One like you've never seen it before, but this is Formula One at its most exciting.